Hello, for those who don't know me, I am Derek from the RandomJChannel. I do most of the miniature village and Jemmy repairs. Every once in a while, the guy in the back helps. Yeah, there it is. So I'm going to do a Q&A. So if you have any questions that I can answer about specific repairs or pieces or common issues, go ahead and ask, and I'll do my best to answer them as they come in. Yes.
Okay, so looking through your channels, have a Fezziwig's ballroom. It lights up. I hear the motor running, but nobody's moving. Is that a gear thing? Do you have a video on your channel for specifically the Fezziwig ballroom?
Not yet,
Okay.
but it sounds like you either lost the drive gear or the drive dog. Because everything else, you said the lights work, everything else works like it's supposed to?
Everything else works fine. The last time I turned it on, it ran for about a couple of days and then stopped. And then before that, it ran for many, many years. And then just kind of intermittently. It sounds like a year.
Yeah, it sounds like either the drive gear may have cracked and is slipping, or the belt has either broke or slipped.
Is there a belt in there?
Most of the belts for the animated pieces are 40 or 30 millimeter belts.
Okay.
I get them from Skull Crane Animatronics. Their belts last longer, especially here in the heat, than the OEM replacements.
Okay. And you say Skull Train?
Skull Crane.
Okay.
On most of my videos, there's a link to them because I've tested belts from many companies, and theirs is the most elastic and the most durable for temperature. And since we have the extreme here.
The thought is the ballroom has a belt in there?
Yeah, most of them have a belt drive on a big pulley.
Okay.
And either the belt drive breaks or the gear right after it breaks.
Got it.
And I get the gears from them too.
Okay.
So.
I want the spooky schooner.
Oh,
I don't know about other people, but we don't get the noise anymore, or the sound, and we don't get any flashing to it. We get the light, but no flashing, no sound.
You don't, the green lights don't flash.
Right.
That one is notorious for the control chip to break. There is bypasses, but you'll usually lose the sound permanently.
Could you repeat the question and then answer it, please?
Oh, sure. Sorry. She was asking about the spooky schooner, and it doesn't have the flashing green lights on it, and there's no sound. On that specific one, I worked on several of them. The blob chip, which is the brains, cracks. Something the way they designed it, that after a few years, the chip literally splits in half. So you get the main light, but you lose all the accessory lights, which are the flashing green and the sound. All the way in the back.
Yeah, we have a bunch of older Dickens and other things, but a lot of them are Dickens. They might have some kind of a mechanical motion or separate light, so they have a custom cord that's got not only the bulb, but then it's got like some kind of a Molex connector to connect the accessory. And I've always thought sometimes a lot of those accessories, I'd like to extend their life by not running them, so I just don't connect it. But I was thinking it'd be kind of cool if I just made a separate cord. But do you happen to know the part number of the mating connector I could order somewhere? Because I don't know an easy way to just figure out how to. I think I asked D56 that one time, and they wouldn't give it to me or didn't know it, but I was wondering if you ever reversed engineered that.
Okay, so he's asking about the powered older pieces where there's a light bulb that's 120 volts with a jumper that plugs into a two-prong connector, and you wanted to have the connection separate from the light bulb. There is a name for that connection. I bought them before from Amazon, and you can find them on eBay. I don't remember the name or the part number, but I can, if you email me, I can send you the link.
So I know if I email you, you know it. So that's, at least I now know there's a way to get it plugged.
Yeah, it's a little plastic kit where you get the connector, both male and female side, and then you get the pins, and you crimp the wires onto the pins, and you push them in.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes.
I have a broke and Hager RB56 building, and the lighting mechanism is a disc with two lights, one is a white yellow Frankie. The blue light went out. I bought a replacement from here, so it's in the Department 56 blue light. And it's small, it won't work. I don't know what's wrong. I can't just replace the bulb and it works.
Okay, so the question was, she has a piece that has two lights inside of it, and one of the two lights is no longer functioning even after replacing the bulb. It sounds like the socket that you put the bulb in has failed. The bottom center where the light connects, the solder joints get hot and they have a tendency of cracking. You'd have to open it up or do something. If you want to bring it, I can do it, and then usually just resolder it. Yes?
So when you say bring it to you, you can fix them, where are you located?
I am based in Mesa.
Okay, awesome.
I have cards here, and there's some in the back corner, the camera guy, and you can shoot me an email, and I can either pick it up or you can drop it off,
Okay.
and then I can take a look at
Yeah,
it.
because I have several houses, the Sam's Village, where the little accessory rotating pieces, whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't know how to fix them, so.
Yeah, that's what I do
don't know
now.
if I have the patience to try and.
Most of them are repairable. There are some pieces that can't be fixed, like the scooter is generally one that can't be repaired. If it's mechanical that's failed, it's usually repairable. If it's electronic, it's 50-50. And that's the unfortunate part, is it's proprietary. They don't give you schematics to reproduce it. I have on some pieces been able to get as close as possible to the OEM, but the sound is the part that it's proprietary and they don't give you the sound cards. But there's always options. For instance, on your schooner, I've done it on a couple of pieces. They sell MP4 players for putting in like your Christmas cards, so you can put a personal note. They'll play for about 2 minutes, and they run at 4.5 or 5 volts, and I put those inside the ships with the button on the outside, so when you want to hear the sound, you press the button, and it only plays for that 2 minutes, and then you have to press the button again. So there are options, and I've done it to a couple of the older pieces where they don't have parts. Yes.
Are you able to convert things? Like if something was just a battery, an old piece, can you convert it so that it's, you can use remote, or it can be?
AC adapter? Yes. Yeah, for those that didn't hear, the question was if you can convert from a battery box to either an AC adapter or a remote. Yes, it's actually not too difficult on most of the pieces, because those big, like 3-volt battery boxes from the Department 56 or the 4.5 volts from Lemax get in the way. They're hard to hide, they're bulky, and what I do with a lot of my pieces is I get rid of the battery box. And I just plug them right into the direct AC power from the 4.5 or 3-volt adapters. It makes for a cleaner village, and it's way easier to hide inside the foam than those big boxes like the piece down there. Yes?
So, I mean, you have a shop in Mesa where you can repair things?
I have a room in my house. I mean, I call it my laboratory. It's basically one room that's been converted to where I have the workbench and all the power supplies and the tools.
So I guess I have a piece, it needs repair. My thought is, how much would that cost?
To be honest, I do not charge for repairs. I only charge for specialty parts. So an example, like the schooner again, because that's the hard one that we've talked about, I would only charge for the sound card. I wouldn't charge for fixing the lights. It would just be the sound card, because those are about $30 a pop.
Wow. Hey,
I've been doing it that way for 7 years.
And is it just Department 56? I heard you mention Lemax.
Yeah, I started with Lemax because they have more animated pieces than the other companies, except for Mr. Christmas, they're about the same. But I do any of them. I've done Department 56, Lemax, Hawthorne Village, even the old Nescos, the music boxes, those are a pain. Even the generic Chinese that have no names, the old Avon ones. Pretty much if it's animated or there's a lighting issue, I'll work on it.
What if it's not a lighting issue, that it's like a piece inside that's falling off? Do you?
I've done that too.
Work on?
Yeah, so if you have one where, really popular on some of the older Lemax, they have a window display. So there's a sealed house with a display inside the window and it breaks free, so it's rattling around inside your house. Yeah, I've fixed a lot of those where I've opened them up. On most of them, the windows pop out. If you look around the edge of the window, you'll see there's a glue joint. Usually you can pop it off or get it warm with a low temperature hair dryer setting. And you can pop the window out, glue it back in, and then just glue the window right back. Some of them, though, you have to take the whole thing apart.
I lost Ralphie's BB gun in a window.
Yeah, I just did one, about a 20-year-old Lemax piece where all of the insides broke free, and I had to open the whole house and glue each of the 30 pieces back in. Yeah, they're designed not to be repaired, so it takes some time. And we, again, out here we have that wonderful hot temperatures, and that affects them so much, especially when you store them. Yes?
Do you work on motion nets?
On what?
Motion nets.
What's a motion net?
Oh, I guess that would be a no.
Well, it depends.
I have a winch, and it moves.
Oh, okay.
It's not the motor moving, it's holding a pump in with a little light bulb. So after 1997, when I bought this, the bulb finally went out. And they weren't made to get the pump in off to change the bulb. And online, people are asking, how do you change the bulb? How do you change the bulb?
Okay. When I say I work on jemmies, that's the most common of the, I guess, motion nets. I've never heard them called that before. So I heard something new. The jemmies are especially like right now with Halloween just passing, the tall 6 and 7 foot figures that jump at you or move. Sometimes they have the short ones. And so, yes, I have worked on small versions and large versions, but they were all made by Jemmy Corporation. And technically, it should be repairable. They had to adhere it somehow, so I would just go through it, find the seams to separate it to replace the bolt. Yes.
You get a lot of those, like the Disney Fab 5 or the swinging pulleys, you know, where they quit going around. And also I have trouble putting them away because I can't get it, you know, get it off. Yeah, they're okay.
So the question was about, especially the swinging ghoulies, because that one's the most common. They have it over in the other room, but it's a Halloween piece that there's 3 arms with a skeleton, a mummy, and vampire or werewolf. Can't remember the third one, but it's a witch. It spins, and sometimes you can't unscrew the top to put it away. And normally what happens is it'll start to spin backwards, and what happens is inside the gearbox, the gear that locks it from going in reverse snaps, especially because of its age. The easiest way when you screw it on, what I found is if you take a little piece of like saran wrap and cover the threads, it stops it from locking all the way. But if it gets to the point where you can't unscrew it, but it still spins, try and find a new way to store it.
Yeah, sure, a big old box.
Yeah.
But it doesn't spin anymore,
Oh, okay.
so no way.
If it doesn't spin anymore, I'm gonna tell you, I fixed one. I worked on about 6. The top of it has all the flashing lights that go around, the orange lights, is resined on, and that's how you access it, and you have to get that piece really hot to open it, and sometimes it survives, and sometimes it doesn't. This is back when Department 56 didn't want you opening their stuff, and they made sure that piece would never come apart. They did a really good job of that.
Yeah, very old.
Yes, it is, but it can be repaired. You just have to get the edge really hot, and then once we get it hot, we can pop it open. They use standard gears and standard motors in that. And 99% of the time, there's a drive gear that breaks. The drive gear is designed to prevent it from going backwards. And because every time you unscrew it, you're forcing it the wrong direction, it gets brittle and then it snaps off a tooth. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
You said you had cards up front?
Yeah, I have some here and then in the back corner. Yeah, you can email, Facebook Messenger, pictures and videos if you have them. It helps you see what pieces. Because over the last 60 years of animated pieces from different manufacturers, there's tens of thousands of these. I've seen a lot, but I haven't seen them all. I will say, if you do store your pieces, just as a help prolong your life, if they're animated, doesn't matter which manufacturer, if you can, climate control. If not, store it where the motor that drives it is on the bottom. So on the Ferris wheel, as an example, the motors are on the back and the picture shows them standing straight up, and that's how most people store them. Lay them flat. The reason is there's grease on the inside, and we get so hot in the summer, the grease turns into oil and then runs into the electrics. And when you get the circuit board coated in oil, it tends to burn out or short out, and that fries everything. So if it has animation, try and store it where the motor side is on the bottom. So on like Leamax, they have a lot of the spin and lift type tilt carnival rides. You want to store them where they're flat, like they would be if they're on their display, and not standing up like they do when they sell them. And that's because of our wonderful climate. And then on the standard pieces, you can store them any way you want. It's just the animated ones that are more susceptible to failure because of the oils and greases they use inside, just to help prolong your displays. All right. Any other questions or concerns? As if not, I will hand it over to Carl.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. If there's no more questions, it's your turn. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? How am I talking loud? It's good. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Loud and clear? All right, are you guys ready? All right, so I am I think I'm the last presenter today that's standing in between you and determining who's going to win the display contest. How many entered for the display contest? Okay, a lot of you. That's good. I will tell you, every single display that I saw this morning when I got here is absolutely off the charts, above par, very good quality on every single one. I would hate to be judging the displays. They're absolutely wonderful. So give yourselves a round of applause. They look great. As a matter of fact, I think most of you know that I have a YouTube channel. I tell you there should be at least 10 or 12 other YouTube channels out there because your displays are absolutely that kind of quality. I promise you they are. I just held a display contest for the first time in probably 3 years or so on my YouTube channel. I don't know how many people follow it. It's Halloween Villages by Carl. I do all Halloween, except today I'm going to come out of my sweet spot and do some Christmas stuff. But I've got just about 5,500 subscribers, held a first inaugural video display contest online, 40 entries, which is quite a bit when you think about it. 40 videos, I limited everything to only have 2 minutes. You had 2 minutes, you could talk, you didn't have to talk, you could just video, it could be photos, whatever you want. You've got 2 minutes to kind of show your work. I was pretty shocked at 40 entries. We picked a first place winner, and then we were going to pick a second place winner, a runner-up, and it was so close and so convicting that we actually did a tie for second place. And so the winner for the display contest that we just awarded 2 days ago, or the day before Halloween, whatever that was, 3 or 4 days ago, I guess. The grand prize winner was a $50 gift card straight to Department 56. And the second and runner-up, the tie for second place, each got a $25 gift card for Department 56. So not bad for a 2-minute video. So if you don't follow my channel, I highly recommend that you do, and then start working on your skills. If you built those villages out there, your skills are already better than mine. So just submit a 2-minute video next year in the Halloween theme, and see if you can get yourself a gift card or whatever we decide to give away next year. So primarily, I do all Department 56 Halloween. I've got a huge collection of Department 56 Halloween stuff. For those of you who don't know, I started collecting and building during COVID. So not very long ago, really, when you think about it, right? So everything that I wanted was already released and most of it was already retired. So that was bad for us just getting started, because that means you're going to spend literally a fortune to get some of the buildings that that you want in your collection. And so eventually I got all of Witch Hollow, I got all the crypts, and I'm still working on Trick or Treat Lane, but I'm not paying $450 for the Spider House. I just refuse. So at some point I'll get that and I'll finish that collection as well. But just very passionate about it. I love helping people. I love teaching people. That's why I did my YouTube channel. I share every single building technique that I do to display in my home. And those of you, I heard Martha earlier talking about Southwest Villagers, club that I belong to as well. And we do open houses every year. So you go around to folks' home. We had an open house in our house, so you can see all the Halloween displays. I do everything that I build, I put right back on YouTube to show you how to build it. I guess flattery is the biggest form of a compliment, because when I go around and see the villages coming back to me in videos and things like that, or on Facebook, I'm like, I know they watch my channel, because that's how it looks like something I would have built. And so that is pretty cool to be able to see that. And I don't know, I get a huge enjoyment out of helping people learn how to village better, is the way I look at it. So primarily Halloween, but I do have about a 12-foot Christmas village. It's all Christmas Lane. And so I'm going to set that up. We're tearing Halloween down, probably starting, honestly, tomorrow, and then through the rest of the week. And then Christmas will go back in its place. So that's kind of the way we function. So a couple of things today. I'm going to try to plug this in. I don't know that it'll work. I haven't looked at it in a minute, but I want to show you. Is it on?
Yes.
All right. So there's a couple of things for when I build that I look for, right? I build everything with a purpose. I believe that if you're going to build something, it needs to have a purpose. Nothing against people who collect a whole bunch of stuff and just stack them on top of each other. You look at their village, at night it looks amazing. It looks like you could probably see it from the International Space Station. But when you get real down and close, it's just building on building on building on building with no real rhyme or reason. And if you do that, that's fine. It's your village, you get to decorate it and build it the way you want it. I try to build with a purpose, with a theme, to make it look as realistic as possible. So when somebody sees it, I remember the first time I did sidewalks. I fielded probably 3,000 questions on social media. Where did you buy the sidewalk? I built the sidewalk. I mean, you can build it too, and I show you how to build a sidewalk, but a lot of people weren't doing sidewalks. Look at social media now and look at how many villages have sidewalks. So there is an influence if you do this enough, and so everything should have a reason, and when I build something, I build it to put in a certain place in my home. That's another thing. A lot of people will just start building and then they're like, where am I going to put this? Right? Now I'm going to have to go get all these tables and set it up in the middle of the room. And so I kind of go through in the design phase of a build and figure out where this piece is going to go. I do a lot of vignettes. I think vignettes are not capitalized on enough, right? Everybody wants to do a big village, but I think you can get just as much out of a small vignette like this. So this is the Church of the Holy Cross that was released by Department 56 many years ago. It has since retired. But I love the stained glass windows in it. When it lights up, you can see the stained glass windows pretty good. Although it's very light in here at nighttime or at dusk, it looks really, really good. So I try to incorporate some other things outside of just Department 56, like backdrops and backgrounds and things like that. So in this particular case, and I unfortunately I forgot to bring batteries, but I figured that I was going to take this wooden little window at Hobby Lobby. It's green, so it kind of matches a Christmas spirit already. And then it's just a frame with the ironwork in it, nothing in the back at all. And so what I did is I searched online on Amazon and I found a stained glass window cling. Basically, it's a stained glass window look that you can cut out and put in your window, in your bathroom or your kitchen or whatever. And I'm like, that is exactly what I've been looking for. So I took it, I set this on top of it, and I traced around it. I cut it out with a pair of scissors, and I hot glued it to the back. So if you look at it, and I'll try to take it out of here. If you look at it, this is what it looks like on the back. It's just this film glued onto the back with a whole bunch of fairy lights kind of crisscrossing. I only use fairy lights that are on a timer, right? Because I'm pretty lazy. I don't want to turn it on every night because I'll forget. So you turn it on once and you walk away and it comes on, it burns for like 6 or 8 hours, it goes off, it comes on exactly or there about the same time every night. And then when you start looking at it and you're like, I can't see it anymore, it's time to change the batteries. So that's typically what I do with something like that, but that's just a pretty simple, quick fix to mimic the stained glass windows. It's going to set a little crooked. There's something underneath it. Don't judge me for that. But it lights up at night to kind of match the windows in the church. And I think the symmetry in that looks really good. It kind of catches the viewer's eye and kind of takes it into the larger picture of, well, that's a pretty cool backdrop, but it goes right in line with what you're looking at the church. So I'm always trying to look for things that can make your village pop, something that you may not think about. The cool part is, you could do the same exact thing for Halloween, except instead of the snow, it could be grass. It could be a crypt or an old, the haunted church, or some of the Dickens size, what do they call the, people collect them in here too, I know.
All Hallows Eve.
All Hallows Eve. Like the church for All Hallows Eve, I have that. That would be a perfect spot here. And you could put this right in the back, especially if you spray painted this black or gray or some other color and maybe hang some spider webs off of it or put some candles around it. Then you can easily use this for a Halloween village as well, which is really honestly what I specialize in. But what do you think? Does it look okay? Looks okay? And I built this specifically to go into the entryway of our home. We have a little ledge that kind of comes out, a little wooden, almost a shelf that kind of divides my office area from the entryway. It's about this narrow enough on each side where it sits perfectly up against the back wall of that thing, and it looks absolutely perfect. This is when I first started, so I've changed a few techniques from what you see today, but I thought it would be interesting today for you guys to let's try to recreate something similar. So we're just going to do a real quick build of a church, and we've got the new, I say new, it's last year's church, I believe, from Department 56. We're going to use that, and we're going to figure out how we're going to build this. So the first thing that I do is, obviously, we need to figure out how big of a piece we need, right? So what I do is I measure the area of where my display is going to go. I take my church and kind of place it on if I want it in the center. Do I want it kind of canted to one side? And then I'll usually take a black magic marker. Now in the winter, I'm usually Halloween, so the black magic marker is no big deal to me. In the wintertime, this could be a big deal. So we're going to try it today and see how it looks. But I just want to do a very small display with either a mountain backdrop, which would be very quick to do, or just simply some big trees sitting in the back of it for a backdrop. You could use either one. You could use both, although if you use these big trees, you'll never see the mountain. Especially on a small display like this, it would just overwhelm it, right? So you're going to have a little bit of perspective going into it of how you want it to look. So for me, I'm just going to, I don't even really need to draw a line. As a matter of fact, that's, do we have film on the bottom of this? No, so I can turn it over if I need to. But I think what I'm going to do, now I use a lot of tools by a hot wire foam factory. I think most of you do too. If you don't, you should invest in a good set of tools. They make life so much easier. And then I also use, and I cannot, I know a few of you have bought one after I talk to you. The Proxon hot wire foam table, how many have one? There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I could not village without the Proxon hot wire foam table. You can cut paper thin foam. That's how I cut all my sidewalks. That's how I cut most of everything that's thin. Is I use that. But for something like this, I drew the line here, and then after I drew it, I'm like, that's not anywhere close to being big enough. So for a small vignette like this, you just kind of bear with me, right? I'm just going to cut it down through here, but let the tool do the job. You paid a lot for the tools, so they do get hot, but with this foam, they go sort of slow. And so if you try to rush it or push it, it will bend, and then the heating element will start to deteriorate. It'll no longer get hot, and then you'll have to replace the tool. These you cannot, unless Derek can repair it from the RandomJChannel. I think you just have to buy a new one. The handheld sculpting tool, you can change the wire on that. You can change the wire on the freehand routing tool. So there's a couple tools that you can change. Now you saw that I cut this in an incredibly straight line, right? Incredibly straight. I'm very talented when it comes to cutting foam in a straight line. The thing is, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't, because we're gonna carve this whole thing up, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna burn this off just a little bit because one, I love the smell. No, I don't. I hate the smell. But if you don't, and it dries on there, it also deteriorates your blade. So I just let that burn for a second. And so then what we're going to use is the freehand routing tool. This is a great tool from Hot Wire Foam Factory. You can bend it down here, you can bend it up here, you can move all this stuff. I highly recommend that you do that when it's off, because if you do it when it's on, ask me how I know that, it hurts. All right, so we're going to unplug that and plug this back in. So we're going to make this, try to be as similar looking to this as we can. It's sort of a rocky terrain is kind of the look I was going for here. I did a lot of brown in this one. We don't have brown. I got some black, and hopefully the gray spray paint works. I don't typically use a lot of spray paint. I take that back. I use a lot of black spray paint for anything I do. I put a base coat of black down. Because for Halloween, if you put the base coat of black down, then you can dry brush grays. I do a lot of dry brushing with just craft paint, acrylic craft paint, and you can dry brush multi-colors of gray and really get this stuff to pop for stonework or brickwork or what have you. I very rarely do any other spray paint other than black, but today, in the interest of time, we're going to do that. I also glued this snow down, and I used putty, joint compound to build dunes, like little sand mounds or snow mounds, to kind of go along the sidewalks where it looks like they shoveled it. I would not do that anymore, and the reason I say that, if you look at it real close, I welcome you to come up here and look at it close after the demonstration. It looks like there's a whole bunch of dogs running around here too, and they peed on it. It turns yellow. So I should put a little bit of some dogs out there to make it look a little more realistic. But that joint compound, unfortunately, kind of yellowed over time. And so, trial and error, when I first started, I thought that was the best way to go. And now I realize it's not the best way to go. I will show you today how to make new improved snow mounds for your village. It's a whole lot easier, it looks a whole lot better, and it doesn't yellow. All right, so how do we do this? For this, it's very, very simple. We just grab the foam, and we're just going to try to cut a random pattern, and we'll start back here. We're just kind of work our way around. You guys can see, yes? So we're basically taking this and just kind of going in and out. We want to go about halfway down, okay? So no real rhyme or reason. We're just kind of cutting at different angles. This takes a little time, so just be somewhat patient. So see how that's starting to look there? All right, and then we'll continue around the front. Any questions while I'm doing this? It's very tedious work. I could probably talk and do this at the same time. Yeah.
What did you say you put behind that, the first one you put up, the make things all the
What did I put what?
behind the frame?
It's a cling, like a window film that looks like stained glass. So you can find that on Amazon, or you can find it on, I think I got mine off Amazon, but I think you can probably find it at a hardware store.
You call it a what?
So like a window cling, C-L-I-N-G.
Oh, cling, okay.
My southern accent probably sounded like something totally different. All right, so this is, you don't have to do the back side of it because it's going to kind of be hidden. I mean, you certainly can if you want to, but it doesn't really make a difference, and we're not going to do that today. But that looks almost undone, right? Doesn't look exactly right. So the way we do that is we turn it over, and we do the exact same thing. All right, so now, when you start to see it, it's starting to look a little bit more like it's supposed to. You don't have to make this one as deep. You certainly can. But again, this tool, this handheld routing tool, is just wonderful to do this stuff with. And once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. There's a whole lot of other techniques that you can do. And I suggest that if you have one of those, you just get some scrap foam and you practice. Because you can make all sorts of things. You can make the foam look a whole different way depending on what you're building. If you're building Halloween, or if you're building like an Easter village, or a dock area by the water, would look a little bit different with a different technique. So I would suggest that you experiment with it a little bit and see what really works for you. Now we're making this pretty pointed on the front, and sometimes that happens, especially when you're in a hurry trying to build, but we can fix that as well pretty easily. And I'll show you how to do that. If that were to bother you, you can fix that. All right, and then how do we make snow mounts? Well, see all this stuff that I'm cutting off and wasting. We're not really wasting it because we could use that to build our snow mount. We can cut that down a little bit and just hot glue that into the areas you want to snow mount, and then it looks just like a snow mount. It's white, you don't have to mess with it, and when we put our snow on it, it's going to look absolutely perfect. So around your sidewalks and driveways and things like that, you can use this to piece it together and glue it down. So that's sort of how that's starting to look, but you see how it's sort of very pointed in the front? So if you don't like that, I'm not a big fan of that either, but you can just come and, man, this is killing me, but you can just kind of,
Smoke's coming
just kind of cut this off. This would be a great snow mount too if you made it a little bit thicker. A little bit better, yeah. I think, maybe. And then you could work at this all day, but once we paint it, I think it'll be just fine, okay? So we're gonna put that down and let it smoke all there by itself. We're gonna clear some of this stuff off. All right, so now, what I would typically do is I would figure out where the church is gonna go, and then how is this church lighted? So I'm gonna do a couple of things at the same time here. So if we take our church, and let's say we're going to put our church sort of at an angle, maybe like this, with some of the big trees as a backdrop. We want a little walkway. And so how do we hide our cords? Well, we hide our cords underneath the display, right? And so the way we do that is I've got this plugged in. I know exactly where the cord's going to go. So I just basically put a hole in the foam. Then I can take my building off, right? And so now where the hole is, we made the hole, we're just going to come in and round it out just a little bit. It's going to be covered with snow, but we just kind of round it out so we can fit the cord down through there. And it looks something like that when we're done, okay? And so then the cool part, and this is how you can get, if you really want to get mounds of snow around your sidewalks and things like this, this is probably the best way to do it, especially if you're making a larger village. You kind of bend this handheld routing tool up to almost like a little, I call it like a little tunnel shape, something that looks about like that. Okay, we're gonna plug this back in. Again, do this while it's unplugged, because you'll only do it once when it's plugged in, and then you'll learn. So then you basically, we're gonna let that get hot, you basically put this into the hole and drag it straight to the back. Okay, we're gonna have all of our cords come right out of the back, so that way your display sits flat and you don't have to worry about the cords. And I'm a big fan of having a very large village. My trick-or-treat lane is 4 foot by 4 foot with about 15 or 18 buildings on it. You can't see a single cord at all. You should hide all the cords. That's what you do, right? So this is hot enough, so you just basically bring it straight back. This is a perfect snow mound for a sidewalk or something like that. And again, if it's you can cut that down a little bit, but that's what that looks like, right? When you're done, so you save all those, and I'll show you how to do that. But then you've got a tunnel, right? And so what do you do with the tunnel? You basically take your building, you put the cord down through it. It's got this little tag on it. We're going to leave that on. Okay, so now you've got your building plugged in. The cord comes right out of the back, and so you just plug it straight in. You need something?
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, they need something. Maybe else.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to take a time.
Yeah, let's time out. Yep,
Okay.
for
Who
sure.
wants to win something? Okay. Give us to the anniversary gazebo for North Pole. You can either have a friend or a foe.
Sharon Hibbler?
Sharon Hibbler?
Oh. Gotta be present to win, right?
These people all say yes.
Yes, they do.
We're not sure.
And that's what the next cue.
Barella?
Yeah, all right.
Congratulations, it is signed. It's signed. I know it's reference over here. I signed.
Julie Lane Rogers.
Oh, hey!
Ron Jensen.
Ron Johnson?
Devin Hollies.
Devin Holly? Oh. I think they would have answered Devin.
Donna Parrish.
Donna Parrish?
Here comes all the previous winners that you just called. Good luck.
You're doing good. Keep going.
You're doing good, you're doing good. That's how we get here.
Me?
Anna McPherson.
All right, one last one. I lost it.
Gail Arnold.
I loved it, actually.
Gail.
Gail Arnold.
Gail Arnold. Lisa Roman.
Lisa Roland?
Roman.
Roman? Oh.
Andy Roman.
They love together. What's his name?
I think we have
Either way. All right, we will be leaving soon, so if anybody wants anything signed, we're kind of on the last call. But thank you all for coming today. Look forward to seeing you next time when we do launch. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas. You too.
On that side, it's like,
Wet?
no, white.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, down here you mean? Oh, yeah.
We can see that.
Yes, I can too now.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I've been doing, you guys probably heard the spraying. I typically don't use spray paint. But if this was Halloween, I wouldn't even mask it off. But since it's going to be white and covered with snow, you don't want a whole bunch of the black underneath it. It'll just really show through. And then you got to waste more time in trying to fix all of that. So I tried to mask it off. I'm going to leave the mask on it and let this air dry a little bit. I've got some, okay, so I get this question a lot too. Inevitably, somebody calls or shoots me a note on email and says, hey man, I almost destroyed my project. I used spray paint like you said. No, you didn't. You have to use water-based spray paint. Water-based spray paint. If you use just a normal Krylon spray paint like this, which you can use, although very sparingly and very cautiously, the aerosol and chemicals inside of the normal spray paint will eat the foam. It will just deteriorate it and eat it to where it's like a liquid. Water-based spray paint, however, will not. So this is water-based black spray paint. I get a case of this on Amazon every year, usually 6 or 8 in a case, and this will last me all season. You can hear it's almost out, but that's when I use the water-based spray paint. You can paint all day long. Doesn't hurt anything. The Liquitex is a really good brand. The problem with the Liquitex paint that it bothers me, you may see it today, is if you don't take care of the nozzle, they plug very easily. So every time you use Liquitex, you have to clean the nozzle off. If you don't do that, this is not mine, this is the store's, it may not have been cleaned. And so the frustrating part about Liquitex is it won't work. I looked through all their stock. I didn't bring any of my own. I don't have any gray because I dry brush everything. But I did find some gray Krylon normal spray paint. I will show you how to paint with normal spray paint if that's the case, where we won't eat the foam a lot. But you got to be very, very careful. All right, so we're going to try this. And all we're really trying to do is get rid of some of this black. That does not look very good for a Christmas display. So, you see?
Hey, you're on the roll.
You see it? One little, it's starting to work, but it's kind of going everywhere. But that's okay. I mean, it's going to get all over the church. Yeah, let me kind of go this way. I'll end up owning another. I have that already. I'll have 2 of them. All right, so the point of this is if you have Liquitex paint, which is a great brand, you just have to really take care of the nozzle or it will do this every single time. And this is very frustrating, and that's why I do a lot of dry brushing, because quite honestly, I think the dry brush, in the grand scheme of things, looks a whole lot better. But since we're short on time, and I know most of us have been out here all day long, This is what we're using today.
Or let me throw 2 cents in here.
Yes, please.
On cleaning those heads, if you take them off right away, 2 ways to do it. Number 1, you should put them in water. The water will help keep them from hardening up right away. But I cheat. The little aerosol cans you have to spray air to clean a computer pad or whatever, I take them off right away, put a little water in them, and hold it away from my face, and spray from the bottom up. That way it come out every can. And just 1 squirt that way, and you'll see almost all the paint shoot out the front. Then put it in water again and spray it back the other way, and you're done. I've got some spray heads just for giggles, same one over and over, 20, 30 times, and never had to fail on it. Way of doing it.
All right, so this is regular and that's a great point, Jim. You gotta be very quick and very diligent about cleaning the nozzles, or they'll just lock up on you. You can't use them. This is normal spray paint. It doesn't look like it's ever been used. So I'm going to use it straight on this foam and show you what not to do. And then I'm going to show you how to kind of maybe multicolor this with a different color of gray, because it still doesn't look nearly as good as it would look dry brush. But this is what happens when you spray paint foam. You can kind of see it already starting to eat into the foam. It's not bad. I'm looking at this to see if it is ideal for wood, metal, and craft foam. This is water-based.
Oh.
Water-based. I was like, I don't think, it doesn't look like it's bad. So when I saw craft foam, so different brand, but this spray is pretty good. Oh my gosh. Take my watch off.
Move away from the church again.
Move away from the church. It's like, that's a beautiful gray church. Where are you
Great.
So the gray, I mean, this spray paint's pretty good, but again, this is not, to me, this does not look like, this doesn't look great. I'm just being honest with you, but that's okay. One of you guys are going to take it home. Right? And so my deal is, it is very hard to create a display in about 20 or 30 minutes, if you want it to look really good. Now you can make, Halloween is much more forgiving, right? Because if it's Halloween, you can just say, hey, it's all run down and dilapidated anyway. That's the way it's supposed to look. But Christmas, not so much, right? So you want to try to be a little more careful. So even with covering it up, you see how it didn't really cover it up. So that's why I'm not a big fan of spray paint for Christmas stuff. But that's what we got. And it does look a little more rocky than it does, but it doesn't look anything like this because this has snow and some white paint also put on it dry brush, okay? So that's how that looks like it does. All right, so then that's obviously dry enough to put at least our church on. We don't need to hide anything at this point, but we do need to kind of figure out where we want the walkway. And so this walkway is individual stones cut out on the proxon. So it's taken foam and cut real thin, and then little chunks and squares cut out to make individual cobblestones, and then each one were laid and glued in place to create the sidewalk. Obviously, we don't have time to do that during a class like this, so we're going to cheat. It's not really cheat, it's pretty ingenious, and use Department 56 matting. It's the same exact concept. And so we want to kind of bring that almost all the way to the front. So the easiest way to do that is find a line and then cut straight across that line so you get it straight. You'll know what I'm talking about when you cut this. And then we're going to measure it here. And it's just going to be a rough concept. I mean, you guys are going to get the lay of the land here. I'm going to kind of cut it at an angle up here to kind of match up there a little bit. Then we'll make some bigger changes there. And then we're going to cut it probably about there. And about there. And so I just made a couple little cuts. And really what I'm trying to do is just kind of go at sort of an odd angle a little bit. Almost like a, no kidding, like a sidewalk. or a little path that's kind of around the church, where it's not completely straight. And then the easiest way to do this is to just glue it into place. Now we can do that a couple of ways. You can do that with regular Elmer's school glue. That's what I use. All of this glue, all of this snow, so if I were to pick this up, turn it upside down and hit it real hard, it would snow flurry, but most of the snow is going to stay on. The way that works is I take a lot of Elmer's school glue, the white PVA glue. If I was doing this, I would kind of trace with a pencil around where the church is going to go, because I don't want the church sitting in the snow. And then after I did that, I would take the white PVA glue, and so for something like this, I would simply pour it onto the platform, take a sponge or a paintbrush and spread it out very thick, and then I have tried every snow on the market. The best snow that I've ever found is the fresh fallen snow from Department 56. By far, it exceeds everything else that I've ever used for a Christmas scene. It looks more realistic. I've got my whole 12-foot village covered in this stuff. So what you do is you put it on really thick, and then you push it down with your hands into that glue. You set it out in the Arizona sun, even in the wintertime, and it's going to bake and dry. When it's baked and dry, I take a glue water mixture. Everybody asks what's the ratio is. There's no science project behind it. It's a little bit of glue to a whole lot of water. If you use too much glue, that's pretty scientific. If you use too much glue, it'll clog up the nozzle. Too little glue, it's only water. So you just have to kind of fine tune it on your own, shake it up, and spray it all over the snow. I do the same thing for my Halloween villages with the grass. The beauty of it is when you're done, you pick these things up, even with grass on it, the moss that I use, you stack them in your closet or wherever you're going to store them, and it's hard as a rock, but it looks brand new and fresh. So it doesn't ever come off. So instead of opening this bag and throwing it all over your village and then trying to figure out how you're going to clean that up, glue it all down, glue water mixture over the top of it. I sprinkle just a little bit more over the top of that, let it dry, and then you're done. It's a permanent snow fixture onto your base. This has been done for 4 years, and it looks today just like it did when it was built. Yes?
Do you use the white Elmer's glue for that?
Yes.
Even on your dark stuff, it dries clear?
Dries 100% clear. Yep.
You don't need alcohol on this one?
I'm sorry?
You do not need alcohol?
No, so the alcohol, so Addie was asking the alcohol. So the way for the grass, you're trying to break the surface tension, and you need to do that with some sort of a rubbing alcohol at 90% or so is great for breaking surface tension. And all that means is it's saturating the grass and running down through the grass all the way to your foam, and that's creating a pathway then for the glue to also travel down. And so for grass and moss, you bunch of glue down, push the grass and moss down with your hands. I mean, just shove it down there and push it hard, get it everywhere you want it. After it's dry, the next thing that I do is, after that's done, the next thing I do is I take it out and I use, well, it needs to dry. It's still going to be, it's not going to be hard and crunchy. It's going to be like fresh moss. And so after it's dry, then I take rubbing alcohol in a squirt bottle, 100% just straight rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and saturate all of the grass, every bit of it, with the rubbing alcohol, and that breaks the surface tension. Then I come back behind that with the glue water immediately, with a glue water mixture, and totally saturate it. You can get it on the edges, it doesn't matter, it's going to dry clear. And then sit that in the garage or out in the sun. I usually put it in the garage because you've got other things that are hot glued down that you're trying to keep in place. It gets so hot with the sun, it'll melt the glue. So usually keeping it in the shade in the garage in the summertime, it's 158 degrees in there anyway. So you come out the next day and your grass is now hard and crunchy, but it looks brand new. You turn it upside down and shake it and hit it. I mean, you may have 1 or 2 little pieces falling off, but by and large, it's permanent. I do all of my displays that way. I would never do it any other way, ever. after having seen that. So this one, what we're gonna do though, any other questions? We're gonna use hot glue on this one. And so, as they say, hot glue is hot. So this is not gonna be this will be a permanent fix, but it's not gonna be like it was if you used, and this is a pretty fancy hot glue gun though. It does get hot. But there we go. Sometimes you just need 3 hands. And I'm just trying to get enough to where it kind of sticks down around the edges, but you'll kind of see the difference. I went through a period last year where I was frustrated with the glue guns. Super Bond is a good brand, although that's a very small Super Bond glue gun. It's a good brand, and so mine that I had for a couple of years died. And so I said a little prayer and buried it out in the backyard, and I decided I wanted to get a brand new one. And I ordered from Amazon a SureBond Professional grade glue gun. Got it 2 or 3 days later, was very excited. I plugged it in and it didn't work at all. So I went on a quest to try to find the best glue gun that I could find, and I actually ended up getting a Ryobi battery operated dual setting glue gun. No wires, nothing. They're actually relatively inexpensive. And do you have one? They're amazing. And so now I can I'm gluing everything. Things that don't even need to be glued, I'm gluing them down. I'm like, this is an amazing glue gun. So that's what I use now. And again, once you find something like that, you just never turn around and do anything different. So, all right, so that's how we're looking so far. Okay, that's how we're looking so far. It's pretty basic, right? Anybody can do this. Now, here's what I don't do, right? But in the sake of time, we're going to do this. So I don't know exactly how this is going to turn out, but we're going to give it a shot. We're going to use spray adhesive. Spray adhesive. We don't have time to put glue down, and if I gave this to somebody, it would be a disaster. Right? It's probably going to be close to a disaster anyway, but we're going to minimize the disasterness by using some Elmer's multi-purpose spray adhesive. Anybody want to guess if this is foam friendly? It is not. It is not. At least last time I checked. Maybe it changed since the last time I used it. Now, that other piece said that it was foam friendly, but do you see that? It's not foam friendly. Right? It says you can use it on foam, but you can't.
Keep it about 12 inches back.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to let that sit there. I can already see it bubbling and eating away. So, but it's snow on top of it, so you really, a little bit of the formation is not going to be too awful bad, but you see what it's doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of yuck, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go very lightly on this, and we're just going to kind of go in areas that we know we want the snow. We've got to kind of work a little quickly. Now this has only been sitting in my garage for about 6 years, so it may not even be sticky. Does somebody want to come and feel it and see?
No, it's good.
Are you sure? Okay, so it is going to deteriorate some, and that's okay, quite honestly, because it's actually starting to look like snow almost all by itself with just the deteriorating foam being sprayed here. Okay, so I think that's probably okay, and then we're going to open this snow. Now, again, this is not the way I would do this at home, but I usually cut the bag like this, and I start putting, you have to put a lot of snow, and then you just start pushing it down in and around itself. You will have excess. And you can see the brown and the black kind of through this already, so it would have to be really, really thick in order for you not to see that. I'm just going to kind of get this all over the place before this starts to dry. I would never build a Christmas display if I had to clean this up every year like this. Who would? I mean, really? I mean, you guys do this?
Yeah.
How many do this and then clean it up every year? Oh my gosh. You got more stamina than I've got. I couldn't, there's no way I could do this. I mean, do you agree though? Have you used other kind of snow? What kind of snow do you use? The fresh fallen?
Yeah.
Do you agree it's the best?
Yes.
Because I've tried the cheap stuff from nothing's cheap anymore, but I mean like Michael's, they sell a whole different kind of snow, and I've tried all of that, and I just find that nothing works as good as this. All right, so we're not going to try to turn this upside down and tap it because it's going to make a disaster of a mess. But once you can also just kind of get some onto the sides here and just kind of throw a little bit onto the side and kind of get the rocks to look a little bit snow covered as well. And that certainly helps the look. And then if you go through and while it's still wet, you sweep the sidewalk, it almost helps it to look frosted and snowy and icy. You'll kind of see that when you get a close-up view of it. And this is not going to be completely dry ever, probably. Ever. So you guys are welcome to take it. But that's kind of how that would look. Now, if this were me and I was doing this like this at home, there would be a whole lot more snow down. There would be all of that glue. That first batch of snow would really just kind of go and absorb itself into the glue. And when I say there's a lot of glue, it's not standing thick glue. It's just smeared around in a nice thin, constant layer everywhere you want the snow. And then you pile the snow on just like we did. And then honestly, I just do this on every display. I just go around and push the snow down into the glue. And that does a couple of things. One, it certainly gets it down into the glue, but two, it creates some unevenness in the snow, right? And that unevenness in the snow helps it to look actually more natural. Looks like it's got ebbs and flows to it, just like a snow would fall naturally. It helps it to achieve that look. And so now once that's set up like that, that needs to fully dry. Right, so I would set that out in the sun, I would let that dry. What I typically do, just to make sure I'm doing it right, we won't do it here, but I would take it out in the side yard or the backyard with all the rocks, I would turn it over, and I would slap it on the back a couple of times, and all the excess is going to fall off, it's going to fall off. After it's completely dry, you'd be surprised at how much doesn't come off. Then I go and inspect it, and I look to see if there needs to be any more areas that I need coverage. Like here, I can still see some of the black tint of where we painted, right? I don't like that, so I would put some blue water mixture down real quick over the whole thing, and then I would take another bag, I would use a whole bag on probably a vignette about this size. Now, when I'm saving it, or when I'm kind of hitting the back of it, you can also put down a big cardboard box or something like that, and then whatever you're hitting and falls off into the box, you can reuse all that, right? So you just got to be smart about it. And then I would do that again, and then once I was satisfied with everything, I would take the final glue water mixture and I would coat everything in the glue water mixture, and I would set it on the side and just let it dry. I've done roads or sidewalks or what have you that look incredibly realistic with like snow and ice in the road. It's actually shiny. The way I do that is a very similar pattern, except I take Mod Podge. You guys know what Mod Podge is. I take not the satin, but the what is it?
Matte.
No, not the matte, the shiny one, whatever that is, the non-matte, glossy. I take the glossy and I take two lines with a paintbrush and I go right down the road. So for my roads, I used to use the Department 56 stuff. It's beautiful, it's great. But if you've watched my YouTube channel, you see now that I use 4-inch anti-skid tape. On Amazon, you can get a 30, 35-foot roll for 20 bucks, right? And you take this double-sided, it's a single-sided sticky, it's anti-skid tape to keep you from falling up and down stairs. It's 4 inches wide, that's exactly how wide my roads are. I lay that down, and then I take the glossy Mod Podge, and I put lines in it like cars would drive. And then I take this fresh fallen snow and I sprinkle it all through those lines, and then as it's starting to cure, because the snow gets everywhere, and that's okay. And so once it's starting to cure, I take a small paintbrush and then just kind of scrape some of the middle and everything out and just let it sit there and dry like that. You'll see it when you do that. And it's on my YouTube channel. I have a tutorial on exactly how to do that, but it looks, I've had so many people go, my God, that looks exactly like a wet, slushy, nasty road. And I'm like, yeah, it's the way it's supposed to look. And so that's a great way to do that, okay? All right, this is about as dry as it's gonna get. Now the bad part is, if we were to turn this over and tap it, all the stuff on top that did not get any glue or absorb into that aerosol is gonna fall right off, right? It's just gonna fall right off. And so we're not gonna do that. But what we are gonna do is we are going to take our house and we are going to set it down. We're gonna run the cord through the back. I don't have the ability to plug this in. They did not provide that to me. But we've got a couple different things we can use for backdrops, right? We're gonna start putting some trees around the house or around the church. And I mean, you're seeing a lot better than I'm seeing. I'm just kind of winging it here. But I mean, for a real quick display, it doesn't look too bad. I don't know if that looks good or not. I don't think there's room for this one, but you kind of get the idea. And then we've got some accessory pieces down here that you could certainly put out by the front. I mean, you guys are seeing it better than I see it, but it doesn't look, I don't think, too bad for just a very quick, down and dirty vignette that is spray painted and aerosol painted. And again, this is a very rushed job, but you see that if you got a little countertop or a little area that you want to put something in, all you just started collecting and you just bought one piece, you can make a really classy, really cool vignette with just one piece. Hide the cord, plug it in, you've got the lights, you've got the accessories. You can get some of the little Department 56 animals and put them around here like the winter time, and you can get away with a backdrop like this. You could certainly do something like this and just bring this over. I mean, you could put the trees actually, on the side, and you could set that, put that into the back. I brought some candle holders, like if you wanted to put candle holders. I was not sure what I was going to do for this class, so I bought some very expensive candle holders off of Amazon. But you could also line this with some candle holders and put candles in the back. You could do anything you wanted to do to this vignette to make it your own, however you think it looks good, and then you move on to your next display. And honestly, this would take not a whole lot longer if you were going to do it properly, and I hate to say that because this is not the way that I would do it. But I would do the first coat in black with a spray paint, just like I did, but then everything else would be dry brushed, right? And so the paints that I use, and I did bring some just in case I was forced to dry brush, it just takes a long time for the dry brush to dry. The dry brush is pretty easy to dry, but if you start painting everything, it takes it a while. I just use craft paint. This is Anita's. You get this at Joann or Hobby Lobby. I don't know if they sell Anita's anymore. Actually, they don't. Somebody was asking me on my YouTube channel. This is called Rainy Day Gray. And it's funny because people are like, I need the rainy day gray, and I'm like, you don't really, it's just a lighter color of gray. And they're like, but I can't find the one that you use, so I'm out, I can't do the project. But you can, it's just a lighter color of gray. But they don't sell this at Hobby Lobby anymore, Anita's. They switched brands, so. But it's very simple, I just take it, I really just dry brush this on, and it creates a whole lot more dimension in the project. So if you come up and look, when you come up and look at the difference between the way they look, and this one does have a little bit of white dry brushing on it too, to kind of simulate the winter, and it's some more browns versus all the grays. But same general concept, I think you'll find. Okay, so that was down and dirty very, very quick, but any questions at all for me on anything at all village building related? Yes, ma'am.
I know you said this, but I don't recall. Why do you use the black as a base again?
Yeah, so for most of my Halloween stuff, and really for this is a base coat of black as well. And the reason I do that is because as an artist is kind of what we refer to ourselves when we're doing this, right? When you're looking at something in nature, you have dimension, right? And so creating dimension in a inanimate object is difficult to do in some cases. So if you start with a black base coat and then you dry brush into that black base coat, you'll never ultimately cover up all the black. Some of it will always protrude through, and it creates this extra layer of dimension. I find it looks incredibly realistic, especially when I'm doing rock work or sidewalks or curbs. In a lot of my villages, I go the extra detail, and I put curbs around all the roads, I put sidewalks in the village, and when you dry brush, or when you actually paint in black, and then you go over it in a gray, the process I use that I would have used at home for this, the process which I use for all the sidewalks and curbing, is a coat of black spray paint, 2 coats of different colors of gray, and a coat of white. So I take the black as the base, I take a very dark gray, and I go dry brush, not covering up all the black, but getting some intermixed of dark gray. Then I let that dry. I take a lighter gray, which is the rainy day gray. You have to have this exact color, apparently. Any light color will work. You do another lighter coat of gray. It gives it more dimension. And then I take white, really, really light dry brush of white, and it adds the highlights to that. If you were to take something that I created like that and put it beside something that they just use gray, it's a world of difference. How many folks have used the technique that I'm talking about to paint? Right? You see a huge difference between doing that and just a coat of gray or a coat of brown, or you see what I'm saying? It adds so much more dimension. Yes?
When you're saying dry brush, is it that you're just not dipping the brush all the way into the paint and it's just on the tips?
No, so dry brushing technique is really it's hard to explain how to do that. I can show you, but it doesn't make sense unless you see it. And so the way I explain it on my YouTube channel is simply, you take, and this is the actual way you do it, you get it into the paint pretty good, quite honestly, because you need it all over every tip of the bristles, right? And then I take a paper towel, or something similar to a paper towel, napkin, cloth of some sort, and I paint all over that cloth until almost all of my paint is off. And then I go over my work and start, and when I'm painting, I'm doing this. I'm hitting it pretty hard, and I'm moving pretty fast, and it's creating these streaks that you would never otherwise get. If you start with a lot of paint, and what I always tell people too is, if you're going to do that and you're just practicing, take a piece of foam, carve it like some rocks, spray paint it black, or acrylic paint it black, let it dry, and then try your hand at dry brushing. The way I start on a lot of my projects is, because sometimes we all try to look for shortcuts, we all get lazy, and I'm the first to admit I do that quite often. I'll start on the back with a lot of paint, and I'll back, whoa, that's way too much paint. and then I'll get it all over the back where nobody's really gonna see it, and then once I feel that it's okay, then I move around to the main side of my display, and I start, and so when you're dry brushing, I mean, you're dry brushing, and it's going about like that fast and kind of like that. I don't know if you can hear that, but you're kind of going for it, right? And so then I'll clean my brush off, I'll dry it out, and then I'll let that dry, and then I'll go into my lighter color. The lighter color, I actually prefer less paint on, and so you're just getting streaks of paint into that. That's what gives it all that dimension. And then the white, the final color that I use, is even lighter than that, right? And so then when you look at the sidewalk or the rocks or whatever it is, it looks incredibly detailed. I did a cemetery, I collect, the other thing that I missed out on when I first started collecting were the Rest in Peace crypts. Absolute favorite Department 56 Halloween piece to collect. I completed the entire collection. They started in 2003. They went to, 2013. They went all the way up to 2023 to celebrate their 10-year anniversary. I created, not knowing that the 2023 was going to be the last year, I built a display that I put in our hallway. I think it's 6.5 feet long, almost about 18 inches deep. It fits on a table. I built wrought iron fence out of foam on my Proxons. The fence goes all the way around. It's got a gate. It houses every single crypt. It looks it's my favorite display piece ever. I actually, for the rock work, the bricks, the stone in the front, I actually took real, no kidding, grout, mixed up grout and smeared it all into the bricks, wiped it all off. So when you look at it, it looks real as it's supposed to look, I guess, as far as I can take it. But the dry brushing on all of that to make it look like that, to make it look old. I mean, I've had people look at it and go, is that rock? It's like, no, it's all foam. Every bit of it is foam, and it's very small. It's very, very, very minute. So in order to do that, you've got to really do a lot of dry brushing. But once you do it, it looks amazing. It looks exactly like stone. Other questions?
Quick example over here. This is all dry brushing. It was painted solid black.
Yeah.
And everything else was dry brushed on. And you could go more colors on top of that.
Yeah.
What Carl was talking about if you want.
Yeah, that's all dry brushing. This is back when, honest to goodness, guys, I always do Halloween, and Halloween is just, I feel that I need to branch out a little bit, especially for a class like this. It's kind of coming into the Christmas season, but I figured I wanted to do something besides Halloween. And so I was like, well, what can I bring in to kind of show something very simple and then would be very quick to create? And so I was like, well, I'll just do this church. And then I broke it out, and I'm like, oh my God, it looks like a dog peed on it. So that's when I first started. So you kind of learn that, I use joint compound in a lot of my projects still, right? I do a lot of resin pouring now in my displays. I built a whole fall village this year. I've been saying I'm going to build a fall village forever. I was waiting on a few pieces. I've got it's a 10-foot long fall village that is 4 different display bases, 2 by 2, and it's multi-level, but it's not huge, and it's got resin pour in it, it's got moss in it, it's got a corn maze in it. It's just, I love it. And those that came to the open house, you've seen it. I mean, I think it's one of the better displays that I've ever done. And I look at stuff like that, and I look at stuff like this, and I'm like, man, because you got to remember, I'm an aircraft. I was in the Air Force for 28 years. I'm very high strung. I'm very type A. This is for sissies. This is not for me, right? That was my take on it for a long time. I used to buy the Lemax stuff to scare my children, and that's the only reason. And then I saw some stuff on YouTube that I saw this guy building displays, and I'm like, man, that is so different from anything I've ever seen. I want to do that. And so COVID happened. I started working from home. I'm also a pilot, so I was gone all the time. And so I'm like, I think I can do this. So I started watching YouTube videos and I started creating, and my wife's like, she's been creating and crafting for decades. And so we just, for those that know, we just had a craft room built in our house, like on purpose. A full-fledged place to go and build stuff, like it's amazing. But when I first started, I was going through her stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, you got one of these. She's like, I've had this for like 22 years. Why are you so excited? I'm like, I need this. I had no idea what I was doing. And then we go to craft stores every single week just to walk through and look and see if there's something that we like. I get most of my ideas from walking through every aisle of Hobby Lobby. If you walk through every aisle, I'm looking at the beads and I'm like, I could use that. I think I know what I could use that for. So I'm getting ready to display. I built I'm a huge Disney fan too, right? So we created a Disneyland Haunted Mansion. They had it, right? And I've got all the accessories for it. I created a display that it incorporates every bit of it. It's got a full gate, fence, just like it's got the queue line with the rope, the little chains and the stanchions. You should, I got pictures if you want to see it. It's identical to Disneyland until now they're changing it. So I decided that I'm going to now do Disney World, right? So I've got everything I need, and that's going to be my next display on YouTube, is I'm going to go through and I'm going to create a very detailed, very realistic Haunted Mansion for Disney World. And so I've already got a bunch of accessories. I already know what's going out on the counter next year, Disney World and Disneyland, with a whole bunch of other Disney stuff in the middle. But my mind doesn't work by just throwing it together. It's got to be well thought out. It's got to be planned. I've got to have everything I need in place. So I'll go through you know what I'm talking about. I go through the aisles at Hobby Lobby and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to put the Disney World Haunted Mansion is elevated, right? It's elevated. It's up on a hill. It's got this fence around it. So I'm thinking I've got the Proxon, so I can get all these little intricate pieces. But what am I going to put for the little unique ornament type pillars in between that fence? Well, that's the bead aisle at Hobby Lobby. I'm sitting there looking and I'm like, I think that might work. I think that might work. So I get a sample of each one of those. I take them home. And when I start building, I may have to take something back or get something else. But I've got all these little things that in my mind is exactly how I'm going to build this fence that's going to go around the top of the Haunted Mansion that kind of looks down over the rest of the queue line and everything. And so sometimes I'll just go to Hobby Lobby and just look and come up with ideas of, hey, that will work for what I'm thinking I'm going to create. And so to me, it's now more of a passion than it is really a hobby. It's more of an addiction. Sometimes I do get tired of it. I mean, somebody 3 years or 4 years ago, whenever it was, said, it was probably 3 years ago, said, hey man, you really need to do a YouTube channel. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Well, once I started doing it, my wife was my first subscriber. It's awesome, right?
Did she give you a thumbs up?
She gave me a thumbs up on the first video, yep. She said it was okay. And so, last week, I'm at almost 5,500 subscribers, which is crazy when you think about it. I never thought it would be that way. And so I'm always looking for things to do on YouTube. I'll be honest with you, sometimes it gets tedious and tiring to where I'm like, I feel now like I'm obligated, And so they say if you take something that you absolutely love and you're passionate about it, and you turn it into a job or a business, you lose all interest. And so I've had so many people say, hey, can I commission you to build this, or can I commission you to build this? I've had people offer me hundreds. They got a lot of money and they have apparently zero skill. And so they're like, I will pay you, $750 to build me one of those. And I'm like, that's awesome, man, but I can teach you how to build it on my YouTube channel. I'm not building it for you because now it's a job, right? And I don't want that because it would take all the pleasure, I think, out of it, right? And I enjoy doing this so much because this is where you can really unplug about everything that's going on in the world, and good Lord knows we've got a lot going on in the world, and you can focus on building a church and some snow or a Halloween village or a Valentine village or whatever, and kind of take your mind out of everything that's kind of going on. Unplug, it's a huge stress reliever until you really screw it up. And that's okay, because if you screw it up, the good part about screwing this stuff up is it's foam, so you just recut it. Somebody was asking earlier, they said they wanted something that was coming apart, and would they be able to just re-glue it? I'm like, dude, it's foam, man. Re-glue it, recut it, make it however you want to do it. Don't throw it away, just redo it. So to me, that's kind of the excitement and the joy that I get out of doing this. And I would imagine it's the same for most of you. Right? It's a way to unplug, a way to kind of let your creative juices kind of flow. And hopefully you can create something that you can put into your home, you can be very proud of, have people over and take a look at it. And that's why we do it, right? Well, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If you want this vase, good luck. I will throw in the candle holders for free. Just take them, right? That's it. Thank you. All right. Do you have any other announcements? Anything coming next, or
Yes.
drawings?
Drawings. So we still have a drawing for you're giving away the vase.
Just the base, yeah. Unless you want to give away the church or the tree, that's all yours.
All right, candle holders with it.
The candle holders are with it, yeah.
Okay, so you get candle holders for the base.
And not the paintbrush.
Now, anytime your name's drawn and you don't want it, just say, I don't want it.
I don't want it.
Okay, you won't get it.
So which one are you doing first?
What do you get?
Oh, we're gonna do his first.
We'll do that one first.
That's on the top of your mind, or you're running up to the right, I don't know which. Derek Lewis.
Derek Lewis. Derek got most of my stuff, I think.
You want to get this one next or the Halloween one?
Let's do the Halloween first. All right, this comes the way it is, and most of it can come apart. So you can sit in your car, store it wherever you want. Got the hands, got the lights. Great mountains. All right, you ready?
It has a filler.
No.
Oh, no?
Oh,
That's the first time. Here, come on.
I told Stefan a long time ago about a story about styrofoam we had in the shed. My baby.
The mic?
Yeah. We had a big pillar behind here, I know, because I built it. Well, it was sitting over in front of Millie, and they had some mice, or rats or something. Anyway, they love that pillar. You did all of it, so you don't get the pillar. Okay. Jim Ballard. Jim Ballard. No Jim Ballard. Gotta be here to win. So wonderful. Doug Boone. Doug Boone? Must be off by Alamo or something. Two or three, well, let's see. Ben Chapman. Ben Chapman? You like it?
Yeah.
You can get it later. Yeah, that makes sense.
Alright.
Do they come with the tree?
Yes.
Yes, exactly the way you see it.
All right.
You get all the goodies with that.
The light too?
Huh?
The lights?
The light too.
All right, cool.
Addie Logston. You want it or not?
Of course.
Okay, think that's it. Oh, we're gonna auction up the cans of paint.
Oh, Derek.
Cans of paint.
Oh, cans of paint?
The pinky one.
That's the one that,
Oh, yeah, you can
the
just
blonde
roll
got
that.
three. Okay, this is, and it's a purple color.
There you go.
If you want it, I've got three of them, but we'll go through it. If you want to say yes, say no, whatever.
Oh, it's okay.
Margie Salone.
I got a sweep up in here.
And then all these are.
Margie Salone.
I'm just gonna leave all your stuff here.
Okay.
I'm just gonna take the stuff, that hold that shoe.
Chris Smith.
This, everything else is.
Chris Smith.
Okay.
Sherry Kennedy. Kenny. No, Sherry Kennedy. Might have to throw $1 in. Mark Zadok. Who won? That's all right. Yeah, won. She won. Yeah. Marcy.
Marcy Lynn Hanson?
Yes, I should take it.
You want one?
Yes.
Okay, you got one. Vincent Schultz? Yes. You want one? Yeah, okay. Jensen Bennett. Jensen Bennett. Al Hitler? Al Hitler? No, no one. Not here. Debbie Cherston? Debbie Cherston?
It's me, it's probably me.
Is that you?
Yeah.
How do you say your last name?
Sharenzia?
Oh, wow.
I don't think I can take it a little bit.
Just a little bit, so you get to keep it. Okay. Andy Romero. Romo. You want it? Okay. That's 3.
All right.
So those are tearing off little things. Why don't we let everybody clear it up?
Wait.
Oh, wait a minute.
We got the winner.
So, yes. So I have all the envelopes here for all the displays out front. But first of all, John wanted me to thank all of you for showing up today for the retirement E56 stuff and all of that, for the signing of that. All the displays were fabulous. They were great. I enjoyed looking at all of them. Don't forget your retirement sale sheets also. Some of those houses, like D56 stuff, I do believe we still have left. If you want some of those, if not, then I'll probably buy some. I don't know. As a D56 collector myself. So I'll go ahead and start calling out numbers and what they won for. So the most nostalgic was number 2. Who was number 2? Alright, I gotta get my glasses. Best holiday theme was number 1. Best carving, number 11. Alright, most original was number 9. Most creative, number 8.
Atwood.
There you go. All right. Most colorful, number 5. I didn't know this was a category, but best lighting, number 3. Best landscaping, number 10. The most sweet, number 6.
The most what?
Sweet. All right, so the last 2, People's Choice and Grand Prize. People's Choice was number 4. Oh, there we go. There you go. All right, so the grand prize is number 7. that concludes this year's retirement event. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the food and see you later.
Yeah, thank you.